So before I go on, I'll take a moment to say thank you to God the Most High, the one that have been with us from time immemorial, and the one who is with us forevermore. I thank my ancestors and your ancestors for not being selfish, but sharing with us the knowledge that they could have taken to the grave. And I also thank them for giving the ability to share and to reciprocate whatever feedback I get from whoever I share this information with. I had planned that someone introduce me, but since there's nobody to do that, I will quickly introduce myself and then we'll get down to business. My name is Laye, and I'm from Ghana. I come from about 7 miles east of Accra, the capital city of Ghana. And I am, by classification of people, a Ghan. I have been in a family of healers since time immemorial because my ancestors were healers. My father was a healer. His father was a healer. My mother's mother is a healer. So I come from a circle of healers and seers and prophets. I was introduced to this realm of this world of healing at an age when most people consider you to be ready to learn. At the age of 6, I was initiated into the culture of healing. I have studied under many that I would call in the Western sense an experts or adepts. I've studied with over 7 of such people, and in actuality, you don't buy anything from them, you just absorb things from them. And I've spent a greater number of my years in the pursuit of trying to bring happiness to people who are ill or who are spiritually broken. I take my inspiration from God Most High and the people around me. So to cut in short, I like to call myself a healer. I also like to claim that I am an engineer who has worked with NASA. I'm making this claim: use herbs and how it should be used, and we'll talk about the physical aspect of it, where it entails buying herbs and comparing whether the herbs will sit well with someone who is ill or not. We'll also talk about how to prepare herbs. We'll talk about a spiritual aspect of it, which deals with these mystical symbols. Very simplistic, but everything that deals with healing is carried in these simple diagrams here. The belief is that Africans do not have ways of representing what they have in mind, but they are verbal people. Well, we are verbal people, but we have what is called secret organization. I'm not using the word secret in the sense that things are hidden, but it's levels of initiation or levels of arrangement that are there in place so that not everybody can get access to certain information. We are here today to deal with healing. And we know what Western medicine lacks is the spiritual aspect, which is the beginning point of all healing. We will talk about what Western medicine has not been able to do and what herbal medicine is able to do. I talked to a couple of friends who are in Orthodox medicine, and they told me that I should not say that all, I should use the word all. But I take exception to that because I have seen people with so-called incurable diseases come and be healed by our way of healing. Okay, so before we go on, I would like all of you to be familiar with this simple diagram. This diagram we're looking at is actually in the three-dimensional space is a pyramid with a sphere inscribed in it or buried in it. But I'm using the planar part of it so that you can understand what is actually going on. I'll have time for questions okay. So here, I call it live pyramid. The apex of it represents your mind, the physical and the spiritual aspect of it. Within the sphere is an entity called Susuma and Shadi. At the lower vertices, we have Kla, Bishi. And then sitting on all this is the body. You ask, why do you have to know this to be a healer? Do you just need to go to the store and buy herbs or read books like what is written here? Well, if you want to be a driver, you don't just go and get your license. You learn how to drive and drive correctly before you start driving. If you want to be a healer completely, you have to be familiar with this. I'm not saying this is the only way Africans represent this concept, but the Gan from my area represent the human body as a pyramid with a sphere inscribed in it. The pyramid represents the source of energy, and the sphere is an enclosure for protection, cosmic protection, spiritual protection. Within this is a spirit, so the body has 1, 2, 3, 4 spirits within it. The first one is called the Susuma. The Susuma is the entity, the spiritual entity that predetermines your lifespan. Shadi is that entity or spirit that kind of acts as a catalyst for the Susuma, so that you will live the life that you are predetermined to live. At the lower end, we have 2 antagonizing spirits, the Kla and the Gbishi. The Kla opposes the Susuma, and the Gbishi opposes the Shadi. This is a balance. You see the sign, they say the Oriental sign where you have yin and yang. This is where the concept of yin and yang was wrought. Here, there are 2 opposing forces. One is spinning negatively while the other spins positively. And there has to be balance between these 4 entities in order for you to be healthy and be at peace with yourself. We didn't come here to learn this. I'm just trying to bring you up to speed on what this and that. Then we come to the mind. The mind has the spiritual self and the physical aspect of it. The spiritual is the one that you use to create things with. The things that when you are in deep thoughts or when you're meditating, you use the spiritual aspect of it. You use the spiritual aspect of the mind to communicate telepathically with someone very far. It is the spiritual mind that links up with the infinite source of power, which is God, the Most High. The spiritual body is the one that conceives the act of procreation, the pleasures you get from that. So that if you mess up this spiritual aspect, you get hooked on certain habits that you are not supposed to be hooked up to or onto. Let's say, like someone using morphine. He messes up the spiritual part of his body, so it gets hooked to it. The physical is just dealing with it. Like, I see you and say, oh, how are you doing, brother? How's everything? Without necessarily making an effort to think about what I'm saying. Okay, that's the physical aspect of it. And there has to be a balance between all these entities here for you to be healthy. Spiritual aspect of it. I was saying before that we Africans came from the cradle of civilization. I'm not saying that Egypt or Kemet was the beginning of civilization. I'm just saying that our point of departure, when white people could record history, was from Egypt or Kemet. And we, the Gans, the Guans, or the Ashanti people as you know them, or the Kans, the Yoruba, the Dogon people, are from this high class, high society. We have certain predisposition or certain, what do you call it, specializations, as you would call it. The Dogon has specialized in the cosmology, astrology, the heavenly bodies, and they know of things that exist in the heavens that NASA is now finding out and proving that what they know is actually true. They talk about the 10th planet, which NASA is yet to find. But they talk about certain satellites attached to certain planets that were already known that are now being found by using the telescope, the Hubble Space Telescope. We come to the Yoruba. The Yoruba and the Guans or the Ashanti have what's called the family system, which is known as Ebuswa, and they also deal in what is called the Ifa theology or divination. The Gan, on the other hand, has the ability to prophesy, which is a higher step of a divination, and also with medicine, healing of the body. If you go to Ghana today, the Gans are the minority compared, if you look at the population statistics. But they are the majority in the medical profession in Ghana. So that you know that the history or that predisposition to be medically inclined still runs in the Ghana line up to today. If you go to the upper part of the Saharan area, you find the Dogons are still able to predict certain things. The Yorubas are still able to divine and tell you what is going to happen. The Gan have what's called Puli. They can foretell things without necessarily having to depend on a secondary thing. Like, okay, the Ifa, you throw carries. Whatever, see? Okay. But here, the Gan do not depend on that. He just takes inspiration directly because that's how their forebears were able to develop to that level, and so that it is imprinted in their DNA and their melanin carries it all over their body. Okay, we'll come also to another chart here. Here's a chart I'll talk about. This is the plagiarizing type that the Greeks, or the freaks we call them, plagiarize. They have two male naked men, one standing behind the other, naked. The one hand is up, his legs are open, and one stands directly behind him. This is not a true representation of this. This has to deal with what we call compensative health meridian, or they are the points that melanin are deposited in your body. When you are, melanin is like a film, chemical film. So whatever is wrong with you, there are certain areas that the concentration of this melanin is very high. In my language, we call it mrinu, which is melanin. So these are the areas, and this is not it. Here we have these lines here, which are, in reality, this is a cube, but we're taking only the planar types for purposes of explanation. The top part represents the brain, which is represented as the eye. The middle part is your gut, which is represented as a fuel for your body. Your heart is on the left side, represented as wind. Your lung is represented as a flint. Flint in the gun? Flint, yeah, right. Okay. Then we have the kidney, which is represented by flame or fire. And then we have liver, which is represented by water. You have to have all these in unison, all in harmony for you to be healthy. The brain controls everything. It sees everything. It's all seeing. The heart is represented as wind because it beats. But the next moment, you will not know where the blood is in your body. So it's like wind, a tornado. You see its action, but you cannot see it. The lung draws oxygen from the air to burn your food to give you energy. So it's the flint that adds fire to your food or your food that you eat. Your stomach is the area where you put in your food, the food to your body. Your kidney is the fire. And dealing with this deals directly with your reproductive system. Your reproductive system is the fire of your life because that's where you procreate. And if the kidney is weak, you are sexually weak. You cannot reproduce. Okay, so any ailment that deals with reproductive system is linked up to this. Okay, now, then we have the liver. When your liver is really bad, it's like water that's out of control. It destroys everything. But when it's calm, it gives you a cooling effect. So the liver is represented by water. Now, we are talking about how to use herbs. How would you use herbs if you don't know the cause of illness? How would you use herbs if you don't know what the herb is going to do to the other person? How would you find out how to actually use the herbs and have the effect that you want? Here we have this chart here. And this actually represents major organs in your body. There are millions of organs in your body, but I'm talking about just the major ones for explanatory purposes. And we're saying that if you have a heart problem, as an herbalist, you have to know that you do not only treat the heart, but you have to deal with the stomach too. If you have a lung problem, you got to deal with the heart and the stomach. Kidney problem, you got to deal with the kidney, liver, and gut. Okay. Now, how am I doing on speed? Okay. Now we're learning how to use herbs. And as I said, we have to determine the causes of sickness or illness. The first cause, or the most important cause, is spiritual imbalance here. The secondary one is the physical imbalance. It could be from infection, your diet, or some physiological problems in your body. So to heal somebody, to actually heal somebody, you have to endeavor to bring harmony to these imbalances in the spiritual realm. If you don't do that, you can't heal the person. If you don't do that, you become like a Western doctor. He just studies book and just regurgitates it. You got to deal with the body as a whole. It's spiritual and physical. You got to deal with the spiritual aspect first. Otherwise, no healing. Why do we have to bring essence? Why do we have to bring so much concentration on dealing with the spiritual aspect of you? Why? physical body is only alive from, let's say, 6 o'clock to 10. You sleep more than you are awake. You are in the spiritual mode most often than you are in the physical realm when you are awake like this. So this is one of the major reasons why the African healer deals with you while you are in your spirit.